Can't you see him hanging there? Why don't you indulge me for a moment? If you're not too tired, and stretch out your hands. Let your head lay in the lock of your shoulders. And close your eyes. Imagine you hanging there in his place. Listen, he's already been up all night. He's been praying in the Garden of Gethsemane until he suffered hemohydrosis. The man is so stressed out, he's sweating blood. They arrested him and they took him from judgment hall to judgment hall. They accused him of blasphemy. The same people that were celebrating him the week before, crying, Hosanna, Hosanna. The cries have shifted from Hosanna to crucify him, crucify him, crucify him. They took a robe and they mocked him. They put a purple robe on him. They placed a crown of thorns on his head. The thorns are piercing his scalp. They're cutting into his forehead. Now blood is running into his eyes. He hasn't had any food. He hasn't had any water. He's been up all night walking. Here it is, the weakened Jesus. Now they take a reed and they strike him over his head. Now he's dizzy. They lead him up Golgotha's hill. But before they let him up the hill, they took a whip that they call a flagrum whip. Some of you may know it as a cat of nine tails, but it has iron balls at the end of the whip. And in the middle of the whip are sharp sheep bones. And it was designed so that when the soldiers would strike him in his flesh, it would tear the skin off of his bones. So now the skin is hanging off like ribbons. Now he's bleeding all over his body, marching up the hill to Golgotha. His flesh is fanning in the wind. He's tired. His blood is in his eyes. He hasn't had anything to eat. He's tired. When they got him on the hill, they threw him on the dirt and they took a spike about the length of this microphone and they shoved it into the space here in his wrist between the carpus and the radius bone, cutting the median nerve, sending fire through his body. They put one of his feet on top of the other and shoved an even larger spike through that, cutting the metatarsal space in his feet, cutting the peroneal nerve. Now he has fire running this way and fire running that way. His flesh is sticking off like ribbons. The sun is beating down on his flesh. Flies are flying around because they smell him dying. His own father couldn't even look at him because he was covered in your sin. He was covered in my sin. But here's where they made the mistake. They took the cross and they stood it up. And he said, if I be lifted up, I'll draw the backslider.